The following is a presentation of the Eagles Sports Network.
The 2019-20 Carson-Newman women's basketball schedule is released. Here with Mike Mincey, I'm Michael Watchang for the Eagles Sports Network. And, Coach, you look at how the schedule breaks out this year, a very road-slanted schedule. You play just one game through that first 8-game stretch at home, and you don't have a home stretch of more than 2 games all year. How does that impact how this season could turn out for you with the amount of travel that you'll have?
We'd like to be at home as much as we can, but the way it starts out with our challenge with Aiken and Lander, it's just our time to go to Lander. Of course, we've been down to North Georgia for the last 3 years. That's a really solid tournament that they put on down there. We enjoy going to Dahlonega, and that gives us an opportunity to play North Georgia, who's the reigning champion in the region and in the Peach Belt. We get to play Clayton State down there. You know, it's those are 4. We get to play back-to-back weekends. Well, actually not back-to-back, but the first weekend and the third weekend we get to play 4 Peach Belt schools. They're really talented teams, and I just think it's those early games give us a chance to see what kind of team we actually have. And obviously, anytime you're playing really good opponents, it's going to set you up for conference play.
You mentioned how challenging that schedule is right at the get-go. Obviously, Tennessee in that exhibition game, then boom, Aiken and Lander, King, and then North Georgia, Clayton State. You get all these tournament caliber teams right at the outset. How do you think that this team needs to perform right at the get-go to make sure that they position themselves for a good spot?
Obviously, there's all kinds of things that happen before the NCAA tournament, but we know that come March, we've been to the NCAA tournament the last 2 years. It's something I think everybody's kind of striving for. I know we are. And we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but those games are really important. I think the way we've performed out of conference the last couple of years has positioned us well, and it's helped us. Like when it came down 2 years ago to us being able to host a regional, I think our performance against the Peach Belt schools really panned out last year. Even though we stumbled a little bit late, it was still good enough to get us at 4. I mean, going into the SAC tournament, we were the number 2 seed right behind North Georgia. We stumbled in the SAC tournament, which is not what we wanted to do. But I personally just feel like it's important for us as coaches to our players that we have confidence in them to go out and play the very best that we can. Obviously, we've tilted toward playing a lot of Peach Belt schools. Clayton, North Georgia, Lander all made the NCAA tournament last year. The year before that, it was North Georgia, Lander, and Columbus. And it's just important, and I think my players know that we want to set them up into a tough schedule, and if we have a really good year, then we've certainly earned it, and we earned the right to make the NCAA tournament, assuming that we don't win the SAC tournament and get the automatic bid.
You don't ease into conference play whatsoever either. It's Lincoln Memorial, Wingate, and then at Anderson to start things off. So how does that opening stretch kind of set the tone for where your team needs to be?
Well, it's obviously going to be very challenging. You're looking at several of the teams that made the NCAA tournament. When you mix in Anderson and Wingate and North Georgia, and it goes on and on. We're playing 5 of the 8 NCAA or 5 of the other 7 NCAA tournament teams before we even get to almost December. And so it's really important that we're preparing well now. Obviously, when the 15th start, we'll be able to get into every day and more hours and things like that. But and we're progressing nicely. We're not where we need to be. Obviously, a little bit different team than what we've had in the past. But we'll find out pretty quickly what we're made of. But then again, what happens in November is not going to necessarily tell the tale in March. But if we get through that, in a pretty good manner in terms of wins and losses, then it'd set us up really good going into December and certainly into the first year.
Conference added UVA-wise this year. Last year, I think there were maybe 2 weeks where there were built-in, quote-unquote, buys in the middle of the week where you guys were able to kind of take a break, have a little bit of extra time to recover and get prepared. Well, I think in the second semester this year, that doesn't happen for your side. So how challenging is that going to be to try to get after it Wednesday, Saturday, every single week once January 4th hits?
Well, I think that, honestly, it starts now, making sure that we don't burn them out. We don't kill them with what we're trying to do. They don't see me too much at this point in time in the year. They see me as much as they need to. And in depth, I think it's going to come down to depth. It always does, and it comes down to having good health, and a little bit of luck goes a long way. But when you're talking about every Wednesday and Saturday through the month of January and February, it can become a grind. And the teams that aren't getting sick of it and tired of it, and they're pressing forward, trying to achieve a goal, I think those are the teams that are going to be successful. And like I said, health and then that depth. And right now that's what we're trying to do is create the depth that's going to be necessary to get through the gauntlet that is our conference schedule.
October 29th, you go to Tennessee for that exhibition game, and then it's 10 days until you play that regular season contest. What do you want to see between now and the Tennessee contest to get prepared, and then what do you want to see from that game, as you will still have time to get prepared for the start of the regular season?
Well, we start practice next Tuesday officially, and we've taken it a little bit slower this year than we have it, especially coming into last year. We had so many returnees that we kind of hit the ground running. This year it's been a little bit different. We've been focused on different areas that we feel like that we need to improve upon in order to have a successful year. So we just haven't gotten in as much of a hurry. I've usually got a lot of stuff in by this point in time, and it hasn't been necessarily that way. We're just trying to make sure that we're good at what we need to be good at this point. Then we do have a scrimmage with Walter State before we get to play Tennessee to kind of give us a little bit of test before we, against someone else before we go play Tennessee. And then with Tennessee, you got a new coaching staff. There's a lot of excitement down there. But, if we go into that game with goals in mind, we want to really try to challenge them as best we can. Obviously, they're going to have a lot more size and speed than us. But that environment, going and playing in that environment against that talent and that level, it always helps us because there's certain things we have to prepare for against Tennessee that maybe we're not going to see when we face Lander or Aiken. Primarily the size differential and the length that they can play with on the defensive end. And then we have that time period. We take the Tennessee game, we'll be able to break some things down and then start getting back into our level with Aiken and Lander. It's going to be a tough tournament to start out with, but once we play them, we'll find out. Because right now, we don't know who the starting lineup's going to be. We don't know who's going to be in the rotation. That's all working itself out as we continue through the preseason and obviously into the first week of practice.
Coach, appreciate the time. Best luck this year.
Thank you, Michael.
He's Mike Mincey. I'm Michael Watchering, and this is the Eagle Sports Network.